Welcome to The Curiosity Solution. I'm your host, Beverly Beal. Join us as we explore the science of curiosity, share stories of people who've used curiosity to improve their lives, and maybe inspire some aha moments along the way. Welcome, everybody, to The Curiosity Solution. I'm so excited about this conversation with Joyce Ayers. She is going to share with us some tidbits from her life around intuitive divorce and the new way of, conscious uncoupling. I know that was kind of a term that was created a while back, but I'm very interested in how you are really going about the heart-centered way of separating the two lives that were merged. So welcome, Joyce. I know there's a lot more to you than just that. So let's go ahead and start talking.
Yeah. We are in the reactive stages most of the time in our lives. And, we're just responding to our environments and people. And so this new way of divorcing is consciously, like whether you chose to divorce or not, it's like what you are consciously choosing for yourself next. So you could consciously choose to carry around the baggage of the relationship and all of the blame. And that's more reacting, and it is a choice. Or you can set it down, do some healing, and then start to really live your life in this new way. And so we tend to, as human beings, with our primal instincts of survival, is we know all the things we don't want. Like don't eat that berry. Don't go over there and get in the woods, get trampled by an elephant, whatever. Yeah. Or don't go in the water where there's an alligator or something. We know all the things that we don't or shouldn't do for our survival, but we don't always have a clear understanding and picture of what it is we do want. So when we end up, letting go of that relationship, or, in the middle of whatever's happening, we end up in that fight or flight state. And all we can think about is all the things that are not there anymore. And we're programmed to stay connected. It's this pattern that we have, like, when you're alone out there, it gets dangerous. So we're wired to stay connected to other people, regardless of how well something's going or how not well it's going. And so that keeps us from moving forward and really just consciously choosing a new life for ourselves, a new beginning, the person that we haven't been, all those things, like, you grow up being told what to do and how to do it. I call that being domesticated as human beings. Yeah, we're domesticated. And then we bring that into the relationship with all of our conditioning and our beliefs and all the things. And then we wonder why the relationship doesn't work. All the people pleasing or you have to confront someone because they, confront them or be confronted. So we go into that aggressive mode. So my approach that I've been trained in, I am a coach, and then I got trained in the Conscious Uncoupling method, which is like choosing a different way. And it's like, well, okay, now something new can be possible from the way divorce has been happening. And, it takes quite a few generations to redo that, or we can just go through this program like I did.
So that's so interesting. I think it is, Gwyneth Paltrow certainly popularized that term. But you're right. I've noticed more and more couples who are able to separate more amicably these days. It doesn't have to be this contentious battlefield anymore. And of course, that still does happen. But let's kind of back up a little bit. What made you? I mean, obviously, you've been through a divorce.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And were you able to use these practices during that divorce, or was this the result of what not to do and how can we do it better?
Well, we definitely did a number of years of what not to do. We read books and we went through this program. We got counseling, by one therapist that It's like, no, we need to, this therapist is toxic. Little, our relationship was not going well, but this therapist is toxic. And so, after years of looking for a solution, something that would help us, we weren't getting there. And I had read this book, Conscious Uncoupling. I thought, oh, well, sure, it's good for divorce, but I can see how it can also be really helpful for saving marriages. And which is what I actually focus on with couples who are at that point of one foot out the door and in, because it's like, hey, if you can just try this one last thing and create clarity before you make that final decision, rather than reacting from what you don't have and ending the relationship. It's like, go through this program so that you are consciously making a decision to end it. Or, if the other person is doing that, then, okay, this person has decided. And it's like, usually at that point, it doesn't matter what you do. The other person's already made that decision. So it's like, okay, time to move on. And like you were saying, more and more couples, when they do get to that point, it's just, no, our paths have diverged. We're different places of growth or interest, or, just different things. Maybe the kids have left home and that was the thing holding them together. And so they recognize, like we did, like in my relationship, we recognize that it's not working anymore. We've tried everything. We're just not coming together anymore. So we knew it was time to part ways, and we knew we weren't going to do it in the traditional way. We really wanted to consciously do it. And so we chose that path. And so we actually went through the program we each had a coach. And so we went through all went through the material, but also the unraveling of who each of us were showing up as. And so we started taking responsibility, which is a big one in relationships, because we say, well, if they did this and if they did that, it would be better. And we're not taking any responsibility for how that came about. And it doesn't mean we have to take full responsibility, but some responsibility, because the person just didn't start doing something suddenly. And I'm talking about relationships where there's, where you just like, yes, please leave for your own safety sort of thing. I'm talking about relationships that you just keep butting heads, and you just like, the whatever is escalating, and you just don't have that commonality and interest and whatnot in the relationship. And so, the next thing is just to part ways, wishing the person well. It's just, I don't have ill feelings towards you. It's not working. And rather than get to the point where we might be really angry with each other, let's do it here, or at least have a time of separation, so you can get that clarity and then make the decision from that place. But going through the program and some other things that I was doing, because I was already a coach, so I incorporated some NLP tools, neuro-linguistic programming, to rewire my programming from the patterns that I was doing, and then embodiment work, so I could start really allowing those emotions to flow through as my guide, rather than stuffing them or ignoring them. It's like, okay, what is this I'm feeling, and how is it like a guide for me? How is it helping me be how is it being like a lighthouse that can direct me?
Joyce, that sounds like such a grown-up way of approaching this. I mean, come on, most people talk about, oh, I'm going to fall in love and it's going to be happily ever after. And, I don't know of too many people who consciously couple. I mean, you certainly are consciously preparing to, to get married and preparing to move in together. But the initial attraction and stuff like that a lot of times it feels very unconscious. And so, what a novel way of looking at this. I imagine that makes co-parenting afterwards a lot easier, because you don't hate each other.
Right. It's like, if there is our children involved, it's like, okay, well, what's now there's the clarity, because we're not attached to certain things in the relationship anymore. So the focus becomes on what's in the best interest of the child, because you can say that, but then to actually do it, oh, I have to give up this and you won't do that for me. So it becomes more, how can I help you? How can you help me? Oh, I've got a meeting I got to go to. I can't be there at 4 o'clock. Is it okay for 6? And, rather than the person, that's, no, I won't do that just out of bitterness. It's like, yeah, sure. Like, cause you've given before. So it's not about taking away something. We now can give from kindness and goodwill, and even like through the negotiating the assets and everything else. It's less about what can I get from them, like because that just makes it, I want to punish you. And so the conscious uncoupling isn't about punishing. It's like, this is what I need, or this is what I need. Okay, well, we both can't have the same thing. Well, we need to divide it, but maybe, okay, you need this and I need that. Okay, well, that'll help, So now you get into more negotiating in ways that both people benefit. And then when you walk down the street, or you run into them in social circles, it's not like you walk in the door and you see them and you just immediately leave because they're there, right? That scenario in the old way of divorcing, or the current way, is like, you can't even be in the same room. Like, oh, your daughter's getting married or something. It's like, oh no, like we can only have one of them there. Otherwise the wedding will be ruined. Like, who wants that, right? Like,
Nobody wants that.
Wants that. Friends, even, it's like, well, we love both of you. Like, do we have to decide? And and that's very common too. Oh, now we have to pick a side. Who was wrong? Like, who did what to who? And it's like, do we really know the whole story ever about someone's relationship? No. So it's not about picking sides, or even like family, like my family and his family. We still keep in touch with each other. Like my niece came to town last year and she's like, well, I'd really like to see him. Do you think he would like to see us? And I'm like, absolutely. it was just because there's the old belief, even though she knew we divorced in a really positive way, there was still the old thinking. It's like, oh, will he want to see me? And it's like, he's known you for like 30 years.
Yeah.
You're a part of his life, and I'm a part of his family's life. So it's so healthy. And it just, you think of the stress in our bodies of going through a divorce as it is, and then add in all of the other things, the complications. And then even though you sign the papers, it still lingers. So like, yeah, if it is possible in the relationship to part ways in a loving, thankful way with gratitude, then great. And then even the relationships that's not going to ever happen mutually, we can still do our own healing and letting go. Because they're trying to think of some psychology terms. I'll just say it in a roundabout way. It's like we want to be tethered to that person. So even though like there was love for all those years and then there was hate, there's the emotional side of it is like, I don't want to let go of you. So I'd rather unconsciously stay tethered to you and hate you than let you go. And again, this is primal pattern that we have of not being able to release someone. So when you consciously uncouple, the person is still there. They're not a direct part of your life, like physically and engaging day in and day out, but they're still a part of your life in a healthy way now, as opposed to the love-hate when there's other circumstances in a divorce. So like I said, you don't have to have both people agreeing to this process. It can just be the one person taking responsibility for themselves and wanting to move on. And and typically the other person still clings, right? Because they don't want to let you go. But you're like, it's over. Like, you're the one that decided the divorce, so I'm moving on. So why are you clinging to me?
I often am called in to do feng shui, and specifically space clearing, when there's a divorce situation. In fact, I just got back from a trip to Colorado where that was the reason. And so much of what I have noticed in general is the inability to set boundaries without anger.
Yeah.
And then have sometimes the boundaries do end up requiring a little bit of anger, because that's part of the reason why the divorce is happening. The other person is just taking for granted that, well, I get to keep doing everything that I had been doing. We're just, we're divorcing, but does anything really have to change? I still get to have exactly what I want when I want it at, whatever time that's convenient for me.
Right.
And yeah, that's a difficult, it's difficult to disengage, but it sounds like your coaching services would be very beneficial even before divorce papers are served.
Absolutely. It if it happens afterwards, there's still the healing and everything that can be done. But when you do it as you're, maybe you're the one, as the audience listening, you're the one that is deciding, or it's just thrown at you. You can still start the process, because it's the acknowledging, first of all, what you're feeling, because maybe your feelings and what you need have been ignored, or you've been ignoring them. The other person has been ignoring them. We've trained the other person to ignore them. And so starting to do our own healing journey, that's the very beginning. And do that by I'm feeling mad. No, I'm feeling outraged. It's like, but you don't say it with any emotion. It's because we've just been stuffing it for so long. We don't know how to feel. But even just beginning to, we call it naming the emotion. It's well, yeah, I am outraged. Well, at what? Well, blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's the story. But what are you so angry about? That I silenced myself. Now I'm going to take responsibility for that, because I silenced myself. But it's easier to look at the other person. I could never just say what I wanted to. I always got dismissed. I always got cut off. So what's really going on? It's well, then we learn to silence ourselves. And then so when we have that emotional healing, then we start loving on ourselves, because when we abandon ourselves, that's not loving on yourself. So by acknowledging the emotion, and what did you need? I just needed him to just have some time to listen. I needed to be heard. My mom never heard me. My dad never, then we go back into all that starts coming up. So we unravel the past in order to rewrite the future. And so there's a whole process that's in with psychology, and it's all about future pacing yourself, rather
I
than
love that
dealing
phrase,
with.
unravel the past to rewrite the future.
Yeah. And we don't need to, somebody's oh, I don't want to go in the past, it was really bad. And it's okay, well, we don't need to go back there and relive it. We can just sort of take a little snapshot, take a look at the picture, and just start working with the emotions back then. And so, there's several steps to this process. And by beginning it as you're starting to divorce or considering divorcing, you already start that healing process. And all this to say is, we don't have the clarity when our emotions are not happening, and when we're ignoring what it is we need and we feel, and we're in just reacting and denying ourselves different things. We're not going to make clear choices. We're not going to be moving forward. We're going to be creating more of an intense dynamic with the other person. So
Yeah.
getting ourselves in a very healthy emotional and mindset way can help with that transition.
I like that you also mentioned somatic work. I find that our bodies are always trying to talk to us. Our bodies have so much wisdom and history hardwired in, not just from our own experiences, but because of the genetic inheritance. The epigenetics is, how our body's gene expression turns on and off based upon whatever flow of hormonal cocktail comes around. And that's why you see some of these family traits that come through. Have you noticed while you're doing this work that there's two questions here. Number one, I personally use Michael J. Lincoln's book, Messages from the Body, a lot. The first question is, do you use that book? And if, if not, do you have another book that you like to use that talks about the emotions that are the issues in our tissues? And then the second question is, have you noticed any kind of pattern within other family members of your clients?
Yeah, start going back and looking. It's like, well, my mom or my dad, treated me this way. And it's like, okay, well, how was your dad growing up? What was his life like? And then they would start telling me about that. And then we'd see parallels. And like, oh, okay, well, it didn't start with you. Like, this happened, however many generations ago. So definitely the epigenetics does play in it. It's like it's our survival way of surviving and adapting to circumstances. And so that carries through. I haven't read the book that you're talking about. I do have several books that are all based on how our bodies are our messengers. A popular one is The Body Keeps the Score. Quite a few people know that one. Yeah.
Yep.
And like, this isn't woo. Like, people are like, what are you talking about? This is woo. It's like, no, there's scientific evidence. Deepak.
Science is finally catching up to the woo.
Yeah, exactly. Science just needed the proof, right? The woo and whatever was already there because it's energy. And so somebody's in the home already and the relationship's not going well, and you walk in the door, and all you have to do is just stand there for a second, and then even though the person's back is to you, if they're mad, relaxed, or whatever. It doesn't matter who you are. We already know. And so we are conditioned to how to navigate that. It's like, okay, either like, oh, hi, how are you? Or you just like, you veer off, right? You don't go anywhere near the person. But we are so in tune with each other that we don't even need to see someone's face. We can just like, it's almost like it's just emanating from the radiating off of them. If it had a color, it might like be red or, whatever color. So we're so tapped into that, and even into our own way of being, but we shut it down. We tell ourselves no, because then we would have to do something about it that would be uncomfortable. Oh, it's going to cause a confrontation. Oh, they're not going to love me. But I need this. Well, no, you can't have that, because we have the story that it's going to result in something that's even more unpleasant. So rather than have that and acknowledge what we need and ask or express it, we just shut it down. But it's still there, and it will come out. Like the person who's just like total chill and they really don't have much of an expression. They're neither too happy, they're not too sad. And then all of a sudden one day they just explode. And that's like just by stuffing and ignoring it. And then, okay. So yeah, like we do that to an extent, this isn't the moment. And then it never gets addressed. And it's like having a story that you just it's never finished. It's called it's incomplete. And then all these little moments of incompletion in a relationship, they add up and they get bigger and bigger. And the other person doesn't necessarily know that there's a problem because we're not saying anything. But when they ask you, how are you? And you say with that, real tight thing, I'm fine. when they know you're not, but they don't know I don't know what I've done. I've done nothing wrong. I don't know. Oh, okay. I think I better get out of here because, or maybe what do I have to do to make it better? And so we're in all these patterns, and our bodies are talking to us all the time. Like you say, they're either constricting or they're expanding. Mm-hmm. And it's, all you have to do is ask yourself a yes or no question. It's like, do I like chocolate? Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And like right away, like you kind of like, oh yeah, you can you already know mine is Trader Joe's dark chocolate peanut butter cups. And,
and I like the almond butter. There's the Justin's almond butter cups.
Oh, so when you think about something like that, you get a total yes, I want some of those. And then you're like, okay, well, maybe I'll just have a couple instead of the whole box, right? And so there's that yes. And when you can train yourself to know what that yes is, then you're like, okay, it doesn't take long when you ask yourself a question, like, do I really want to do this? And it'll just, before you even get the thought out, your body's already responding. And then you can either do what your body is saying or not. And there might be a part of you. So this is kind of the layers. It's like, well, yeah, I want to do that. Okay. Do you want to do it because you really want to do it? Or you want to do it because it will mean that this person won't be mad at you? So that, like, that's where it gets a little tricky, but the body will still have a peaceful, like if you're looking forward to something that you're enthusiastic about it, then there'll be a different energy as opposed to I have to kind of yes, which is still kind of tight. And then if you say yes, but it's a no, like you already know your body's just like, it's like a vice on your body, right? It shuts down. It's a no.
Yeah.
But then we tell ourselves, yes, I'll do that thing.
It's not a hell yes, it's a hell no.
Right.
And yeah, no, I was kind of covering my face earlier because one of the patterns that I had for a very long time, and it still pops up every now and then, but I call it volcanoing, where I just am like, I stuff, everything's fine, and then I'm a little bit too hungry or a little bit too tired, or one more request is made and it just explodes everywhere. And I can be very mean. I mean, most people who know me, they think that, oh, you're so nice. You don't know. So in the Enneagram, I am definitely a 9. You know, I'm that peacemaker. I love to connect people. I love to, to really just make the world a happier place.
And that you do.
Get on my bad side. When you say something, I've got that 8 wing, and it just is like, okay, you've now activated drill sergeant mode, and you're not going to recognize me for the next little while, and I will do my best not to hurt your feelings. However, you brought this on yourself. Oh gosh. So what is the best way for you to find your clients, or are you referral based? Because like I'm primarily referral based. People will see me
primarily referral. It's, and that's the way to go, because everyone's like, what dentist do you go to? Do you really like your dentist? Oh, I really love my dentist. Okay, I'll go to your dentist, because you can, the yellow pages, you can go down the yellow pages, or, scroll the Google. And, but you want a recommendation, like someone who's actually been there and had the experience with them, like you, it's like, well, what is this feng shui thing? And why do I want that? Oh, you want that. We need to clear out a lot of the toxic stuff that we've been carrying around, also the toxic stuff in our homes. And, when people come in our homes and they leave, it's like, okay, well, clear it out. Just bring it back. So I'm just, where's my train of thought on this?
No, I was going to say, so one of my favorite stories.
Referrals, yeah.
Referrals, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, definitely. Like we're always referring people out to each other. And
do you work primarily just in Texas, or do you have access outside of Texas?
Yeah. If anyone's close to Austin, I would love to meet them in person if it's convenient. I really love that one-on-one in person. Like we didn't have that for quite a while, of course. So whenever that's possible, to meet people one-on-one, and where it's just more convenient, I do a lot of Zoom. So a lot of my business, pretty much primarily all of it went online earlier in 2000, back then.
As did all of ours.
My reach got bigger, so it's across the country, of course, into other countries, which was really cool. Then you're working with time zones. So, it's just, somebody knows someone. And with our age of population, there's much, like a higher percentage in our age group are getting divorced now, because they've been together for so long. They realize that they're not happy, and they really don't want to go another 20, 30 years this way. So the divorce rate has really risen for older couples. And not to say like they've been together like 30, you never hear of anyone together 50 years anymore, but 20, 30 years together, that they're parting ways. Or even like, if it's been 10 years and it's like, no, I want something else for myself. So like but they know they don't want to just go down that traditional way, and they don't want to be carrying it around for another 10 years, even though the papers were signed. Which is
because they're grown-ups. They
Yeah.
know how to do this in a grown-up way.
I don't know if you could see it. It's like, I don't want an adult today.
Oh.
Someone gave it to me and I thought, oh, this is perfect. It's like, because when we're going through divorces, it's like, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want an adult today. I just want to put my head in the sand, the turtle, whatever. I don't want to go there. I don't want to deal with it. But it's like, we're going to deal with it at some point or other. And why not do it before you get into that next relationship? Because we're going to carry the previous relationship into the next one. You're like, oh, that's behind me. It's like, no, it's following you, and it's attached to you, whether you want it or not, until you look at it. We need to look at what's there and not feel that I'm not going to think about it anymore, so it's gone.
Right. Because if you don't look at it, you'll just repeat the same patterns in the next relationship. And that's not fair to the other person. It certainly isn't fair to you. That's again, one of the things that I see showing up whenever I'm doing the space clearings. I think one of my favorite stories, it was probably, I was maybe only 4 years into doing feng shui. And she was very honest. She called me in and said, look, you are my last resort. We've done all these other things. I am ready to leave him. I am just tired of being treated as if I don't matter. I don't think he sees me anymore. We used to be so happy together. And as I was walking through the house, most of the time, like I'll come in and I'll see a lot of clutter. In this particular case, there was not any clutter. It was military precision. He was also in the military. And as I'm looking around this house that is absolutely pristine and gorgeous, I pointed out that, do you know that the only sign of your personality is in this particular room? And, when you first walk in and nobody uses it, where have you been pulling back? Where have you been shutting your desires down? Does he even know that you might want to add more color to the house? Does he even realize how much he's pushed you to the side? And of course, she's crying and everything. And I just gave her a big hug. And it's like, if you have any other questions, let's talk. I'll certainly, give you some other ideas of what else we can do. And so I continued the feng shui. This was strictly feng shui. I hadn't started doing space clearing yet. But by pointing out that she was only present in 2 throw pillows in the whole house, that gave her a little bit of that, a massive aha moment. And I got an email from her a few months later that they had just gotten back from their second honeymoon. Because she was able to share with him that what had happened, that she really had just pulled back. She was trying so hard to make him happy that she put herself, she pretzeled herself almost into oblivion. And I think that's what
our own creativity and what we, well, I really don't like green, but okay, I guess I can live with green, right? It's like, well, sure, we can live with green, but let's put something else that complements it, that has the person feel good too. Like, because it's not just in here, it's like how we express it outward or not, we shut it down. Right.
So one of the things so you talked earlier about the need to kind of come up with a new way of divorcing for yourself. Did your parents, did they stay together, or did they end up divorcing? Did you have an example as a child, what not to do?
Yeah, it was, I was about 12, 13. And, I guess a part of me knew that my parents weren't getting along. And, I'm a kid. So I kind of just, I just do kid stuff, right? I just go about being a kid. And, one day my dad's got suitcases and I'm like, oh, where are you going? Right. He's I'm leaving, leaving where? Like, I'm leaving. Like, and that was the beginning of it. It's like no warning, like official warning, or like, we're not working out. It was just one day that he had the suitcases and he was gone. And yeah, and so my mom, was left with us, and she was doing what she could, I guess, to hold on to the relationship and whatever. I just remember like stuff like that was going on, and nothing was coming about, and she started going deeper and deeper into a depression. It was actually, on the severe end of depression. And so she went away to get help, and we ended up moving with my dad. And so my mom was like that for several years. And I just remember how devastating that was for her. Again, I'm a kid, so I don't understand, like, how did it come about and what went wrong? Just like, how did it happen? And eventually she turned herself around, because the doctor said, you're going to be like this. You're going to need to be on drugs for the rest of your life. And she's just made a decision. No, I'm not. And so she made that choice, turned herself around and started living for life and enjoying life, appreciating everything in life and the people in life and everyone in her life. And that was just like, wow, like, she did that by sheer will. And, my parents didn't get that together, but it was just like, yeah, like I definitely want to support people on their journey, so they don't, not that, that large of a percentage go into that state, but we have some depth of it. We will have our period of time of grief, but we may not be able to pull ourselves out for a while. And we really need that support. And so that was, that was the beginning of like trying to fix my mom, trying to help my mom as a 13, 14-year-old through her, psychological stuff. And then just really diving into a lot of psychology and how our mind works and our emotions and our bodies and how it's all connected and how it's all wired and how it gets wired and everything. And, and I didn't anticipate my relationship would end up in divorce. Like, I definitely was struggling, but I didn't anticipate it would end up that way. And so I decided, we're going to do it differently. And he was on board with it. And so we did. And I've come across several couples. It's like, I still love him, but I got to go. Or he left me. We still love each other. And how can he say he loves me, but not want to be with, like, the confusion. It's just so confusing. And it's like, yes, let's work through that. It's unravel it and give it some perspective so that you can move on. The people can move on and start rebuilding their lives and their identities. A lot of times we give away our identity. We lose our identity in the relationship. And then how do you find it again? Well, I find a new identity.
Well, it's especially difficult for women if you've changed your name. Now, like for me, my maiden name was Finger, like on your hand. I mean, I was actually perfectly fine keeping it. I knew there would never be an opportunity to hyphenate because you cannot hyphenate Finger easily. I dated a guy whose last name was Dick for a while. Really lovely human. Oh, he was so sweet. But yeah, that was not, no, I was not going to go from Beverly Finger to Beverly Dick. That just not going to happen. And I just was happy that, my husband's last name was, provided a lovely alliteration. I'm a big fan of alliteration. So that, again, talk about losing identity. Although I still feel like I have a pretty strong identity outside of this. We will have been married 30, well, we're kind of up on 35 years next year. So that the thing that I've also noticed is in marriages that have been going on for a while, I when menopause hit for real, I gave serious thought to exiting stage left. Not because I didn't love my husband anymore, but I was so topsy-turvy, just the hormones had me turned all the way around. Have you also noticed any of that with the clients that you've been working with? That because perimenopause, it'll mess you up. It will
It
f
messes us
you
up.
all the way up.
Yeah, and unless you have somebody really strong and just like, okay, what kind of mood are you in? What do you need? And yeah, and this too shall pass one day. But yeah, there's there's that time in our lives where we're going through that, and then when you add in all the emotional upheaval with it, it's like we get really good at going with the flow and whatever is needed, right? Like we've been domesticated, and just and then when we go through perimenopause, menopause, whatever, we lose that capacity to shield how we're really feeling, and and then we can't deny ourselves because
You go
it's going to,
feral.
it's going to erupt. And we might be able to mask it for a little bit, but it's we just don't have the same ability, which is a good thing, because if you've been doing it a lot, like all the time, and it's like finally like something is going to shift, and either the relationship can withstand it, like in a big storm, and in the house, the roof stays on the house and on its structure, or it'll get up leveled. So one way or another through that, because it's a very trying time. And so yeah, one way or the relationship will go one way or another. And even if somebody isn't in premenopause or any of those places, one person might just have had enough. Because we get a point that, oh, I just can't do this anymore. And it's that conscious choice, but our body is just like, I can't put myself through this anymore physically. The emotional part, the energy part, all of it, the mental part, physiologically, we can't do it anymore. And we just say, done. Our bodies just reach that capacity. And so that it may come out during that time of life when we just have no control over what's going on in our bodies, and we just can't stuff it anymore.
No control over the mouth. There for a while is like, okay, if I think it's coming out, and I'm sorry, that wasn't nice, but the filter is full. The filter needs to be changed, and they don't make that one anymore. So this is what you get.
Yeah, we'd have, sometimes, a lot of times we just have too many filters.
Right. Well, and again, I think that's actually a term that I use a lot with my clients, is because earlier you spoke about, the filter that we're given by our family, the filter that we're given by society, the filter that maybe if religion or faith tradition, the filter of habit, all of those things, and so you're having to navigate through everything. And you often at the end of the day are choosing your words in a way that no longer reflect who you are or who you've ever been at your core.
Yeah.
It's just like, for me, for example, when I was a child, I've always been a little more loud. I tend to speak louder. I have my voice carries. I am a take up space. That was a problem for certain, at certain times of my life. But again, I'm the youngest of 8 kids. There were 2 times when I was like 5 and 6 that I got left at church because the cars were full and there were no cell phones. Everybody thought I was in the other car. And thankfully we had neighbors that they just dropped me off on their way home. But yeah, I had to learn to be noticed. I had to learn to take up space. That did not serve me well when I went to work based on the territory that I was in when I was in Utah working for Procter and Gamble. And I was just being my normal boisterous self. And some of the LDS store managers, well, they actually took the time to call my boss and have a talk with him. And so I was having to learn how to tone myself down again. And that was hard. But again, you do what you need to do because let's face it, we all need a paycheck.
And,
At
we do learn how, like in those situations, okay,
Yeah.
with this particular person, I need to tone it down. When you're living with someone year after year and it's not sustainable to tone it down, like, because, oh, you're so dramatic. It's like, I'm just expressing myself. I'm just having feelings. And you can even do it really quietly, but the other person, it's like, it's too much for them.
Mm.
And it's like, it's too much for them. So then we try to do whatever we need to take care of them emotionally. And then our emotions aren't being taken care of.
What was fascinating, though, because again, I grew up with a dad who, God rest his soul and my mom's soul too. Um, he came back from World War II with obviously PTSD. And I grew up learning how to gauge what mood he was in, to
Mhm.
see how hard I could step, because if you stomped in the room, that would upset him. So it was like, okay, well, which level of eggshells are we working on today? Are we, so how is it? Is it just a few here and there? Or is it a complete landmine? Um, what was fascinating is after my husband and I had been married for a few years, I realized I was doing the same thing to him that I would do to my dad, but he didn't have that same level of upset. So I could ask him, I'd come in and I would be almost timid to just say, "Hi, how you doing?" And he would never understand why I'd be why would I would my how I would change, because that was not how I was when we got married or before we got married.
Yeah.
Um, we bring unconscious patterns in, and until they get named, like you said earlier, we don't know what's going on. I'm a lot more cognizant of the patterns that I have these days. Even with female friends, sometimes I find myself going into over caretaking because, like you said, with your mom, you just wanted to make her better. Um, my mom was always exhausted and tired because not only did she have 8 kids, she was also nursing her great aunt who had
Mhm.
raised her. And so Aunt Bessie lived with us from the time that from the time that my parents got married. They were only 6 months into their marriage when Aunt Bessie moved in.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was an interesting dynamic. Um, so let's kind of back up a little bit. You talked about the fact that you'd already been a coach prior to all of this, the conscious uncoupling divorce work that you've been doing. Let's talk a little bit more about that because I know there's more to you than just this whole divorce thing.
Yeah, I've always had a fascination, just how our mind works. It's like, why do we do what we do? And, so when, after we got married, started our family, and I wanted to be the best mom. So I got all the parenting books and like how to do this and how to interact and love your child. And, so I really dove into that. And so my oldest is 31. So I started my library 30 years ago. And I have quite a few bookcases um, full of books. And a lot of them, the psychology books and everything, I got quite a few of those before I even became a coach. And because I was trying to find my path, I knew I wanted to go back to school, and I was like, oh, well, the kids are young. I'll just wait till they get into school. And then when they got into school, my husband started a distributorship. So it's like, well, I guess I'll go work for our business because it's our livelihood. And so my kind of dreams and whatnot got put on hold, but I was still really passionate about psychology and learning, again, how we're wired and our bodies work. And then when the girls, like started going off to university, and my oldest got her driver's license, and it's like, oh, I don't have to be on a schedule and be taking everyone around and show up here and there. I can actually just do what I need to do. We didn't have the business anymore. And so it's like, well, what do I want to do now with my life? And so I spent, about half a year just like figuring it out. Like, well, where do I go? Like, what do I study? And it's like, I knew I liked psychology, and I'm like, okay, I'm 50 years old and I'm not about to go back to school to be a psychologist because that's a long haul. And so I don't want to go back to school for this. And then I found courses on coaching, on becoming a coach. And I was really into nutrition. And, over time, I really also learned how nutrition affects our cognitive abilities and our energy and our emotions. So our nutrition and how we're wired go hand in hand quite a bit. So so once I really, dialed that in about psychology, and it's like, okay, well, I'm going to be a coach. And because people were already asking me, we do, you talk to people, it just seems normal, right? That, hey, this is going on, I'm being challenged. And so, a lot of my friends we would talk, they would ask me. And so I was already coaching, right? I didn't see myself as a coach. So when I became a coach, there was that identity. It's like, well, I'm not a coach. I haven't coached anyone. I've done this and I've done that, and I've volunteered and I've led this and, all the things, right? But I'm not a coach. So it took me a long time to even coach people. I did everything else, but I went and took more courses and embodiment and
seminar junkie here too, girl.
Oh, I'm a total junkie. I love to learn. Like, it's like, well, how does that work? And so, eventually I changed my identity and I really started coaching and love it. Absolutely loved it. I already knew I loved it. And it just became a part of me. Like, it became a part of my identity as that old identity faded away. And then, like, as I was becoming an empty nester, it's like, well, like, oh, maybe I'll coach women about what they're going to do next. Like, whether it's empty nester, or they have a passion that they want to start a business with, or they've been working for a company and it's so unfulfilling right now anymore. So they want to move on to something next. So it's like, there's a book called The Big Leap, talks about the zones, and there's like our zone of genius, which is you're doing the work that you love doing and that you're good at and passionate about. And so it has those three things in common. So I was, helping women to find their thing. And as we would get closer to finding their thing, the identity thing would show up. It's like, oh, I've been through that.
There you go.
I know it.
Gay Hendricks.
Yeah. And so, it just always was a roadblock for people, and this identity thing. And then relationships started to come into it. So I can never get to that end point with them because of all these other things that they were carrying around. So it's like, okay, we're going to address this first and then work on what you're going to do with your business. And then that just kind of evolved identity, emotional healing. And then with the relationships, it's like, oh, well, yeah, you don't have the identity that you can do this thing because you've been doing this pattern, and compensating because you have these beliefs about yourself, and they're showing up in your relationship. So how are you going to start this new thing when you're struggling with yourself and you're struggling with your relationship? So you don't even have a good foundation to start this new thing. So it's like, it just kept going back, and that's where I just landed. And then when I went through my divorce, it's like, okay, I'm just going to focus on divorce.
Now you've got all of the boxes. You can go, okay, tick, tick, tick. There we go. I love it. Well, Joyce, is there anything that you would like to share, one final tidbit for those who are listening to this today?
Oh, just
special offer, anything like that you have coming up?
Practice. Definitely a practice is get quiet with yourself. Just no music, or, if you just can't, like, I can't do it, just have some low music without any words, just like put on spa channel or something, meditation music, and just sit with yourself and notice the thoughts that you're having, the thoughts you're having about yourself, or what you can or can't have or do. And what does your life look like? What's happening? Like, what kind of thoughts are, we call running the show? And then challenge those thoughts, challenge that thought. Well, I can't do that. Well, says who? When did you decide you couldn't do that thing? So challenge the thought, and then just notice how your body responds when you start acknowledging yourself. And, keep a diary, do it often, even if it's for 5 minutes, do that. And people can get in touch with me by going to my website, createyourlifeafterdivorce.com.
Okay. And we'll have that in the notes too.
Yeah. So that's probably the easiest way, because, Facebook, Joyce Ayers. But I noticed there's a few Joyce Ayers. So I have white hair. So just look for the one with white hair.
You have gorgeous hair, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
My grays are right now they're starting to pop in. And I will happily continue to pay for this, my hairdresser's genius to make it a different color.
Well, I had about 30 years of coloring my hair, and one day I just like, okay, hairdresser, I trust you enough. Let's do it.
Good for you. Good for
It took me a
you.
while to go from light brown to white because I kept thinking for quite a few years that I still had brown hair, and then I would look in the mirror like, oh, I got white hair. Again, it's that identity, right? I just always, unless I actually look at my hair, it's like, yeah, I've got brown hair, and they're looking at me. No, you don't.
I have two sisters, and one of my sisters, she always had black hair and continues to this day to try to make it black. But sometimes she's starting to shift to sort of a reddish, darker, like a real dark red. And I really, really wish that she would let that beautiful, pure white just come all the way in, because it is, when she doesn't do her roots, it is stunning how white it is. It's gorgeous. And she keeps thinking, oh, it's going to make me look old. It's like, no. What you're doing now is making you look old. Go with the white. The
Especially
white is going
really
to make. Dark. Yeah. I have to be careful because I'm just the baby sister. I'm the critical one. It's like, lady, I am 60 years old. I know a couple of things. I know you do too, but everybody's on their own time frame.
Yeah, exactly. So. And we know when we're ready to do something about the something.
Something about the something, exactly. So perhaps it's the next conversation is consciously uncoupling from hair color. All right, Joyce, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And again, we'll have everything, all your contact information below. I'll have some information below on what my offerings are, and we'll see you the next episode. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.